Hello and welcome to X-Witness Awake. I'm your host, Jonathan. Hope that you are having an amazing day. The Jehovah's Witnesses feel that they are unique people living in the world today. They feel that they were personally picked by Jesus Christ in heaven to be the representatives of true religion in the last days, and as such, they would be singled out and persecuted for their faith. But is that really the case? Sudden introduction.
Don't sue me, bro.
So here's the basic scenario. More than 100 years ago, Jesus Christ or Michael the Archangel, not clear on that. I still got to do a video on that. He looked at the Bible students at the time out of all the religions of all the world and thought, yeah, that's the group that I want to represent. I want them to represent us, our kingdom here in heaven, and they're going to be the ones that are true religion. When Daddy finally pulls the trigger on Armageddon, they're the ones that are going to be persecuted for their faith, but we're going to rescue them. That's basically the scenario that we're talking here. Now, to me and to other people who, have common sense, that just doesn't seem legit. Why would they pick why would Jesus Christ or Michael pick the Jehovah's Witnesses or the International Bible Students at the time to be this group? What was so special about them? Everyone else paled in comparison. If you look at the changes, they're quite different, but that's not really the point. The point is that they're special and that they're going to be persecuted, because there are scriptures that talk about persecution of Christians, such as,
"Keep in mind the word I said to you, a slave is not greater than his master. If they have persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they have observed my word, they will also observe yours. Rejoice and be overjoyed, since your reward is great in the heavens, for in that way they persecuted the prophets prior to you."
In fact, all those desiring to live with godly devotion in association with Christ Jesus will also be persecuted.
Happy are those who have been persecuted for righteousness' sake, since the kingdom of the heavens belongs to them.
So at first glance, might make sense to someone that they're persecuted. So if you ask a Jehovah's Witness, are you guys persecuted? They're going to say, yes, of course we are. We'll look at our brothers and sisters who died in Germany during World War II. There's a video that I remember when I was a kid called Purple Triangles that was hosted by somebody that actually sounded like he wasn't a Jehovah's Witness, just by the way that he talked.
Locals call this Woden's Pool, after the Germanic pagan god who was credited with creating earth, sky, man and woman. The water is the source of the river Lipp, which flows from the spa town of Bad Lippspringe into the Rhine and the industrial areas of the Ruhr Valley.
And I don't know for sure if he was, but in this video it talks about a family of Germans, witnesses, who were persecuted, who were imprisoned, and one of their sons was killed by the Nazis for his faith. He wouldn't renounce his faith. He wouldn't say Heil Hitler or do any other things that they would have been expected to do, and they continued to go out in service, and he died for that. I remember back in the mid-90s when I went on a tour of Bethel. On this trip was also a diversion to go see the National Memorial for the Holocaust. Now, in that Holocaust museum, there was a lot of information, a lot of pictures. There was a lot of sets that were made that showed the kind of conditions that people endured when they were in concentration camps, and it was horrible. I remember a giant pile of shoes, kids' shoes, just kind of made you think about how many people died, just seeing that. Now, if you look at the Purple Triangle video, you would think that the focus of the persecution of people in World War II in concentration camps and prisons was focused on Jehovah's Witnesses, which of course is ridiculous. 6 million plus Jews died during that time, and there were other groups who were persecuted as well. People who were homosexual, people who were gypsies, political prisoners, prisoners of war. There were so many other groups that were persecuted, not just the Jehovah's Witnesses. Whereas the amount of Jehovah's Witnesses that were killed during that time was something like, I'm going to Google that in a second. That's the number. That's the estimated number. So that argument about World War II and that is a little misleading, to say the least. What about in the modern day? Well, you've had many people who have been imprisoned in Russia, other countries where religion is banned or Christianity is banned, or just the Jehovah's Witnesses themselves are banned.
I was arrested and sentenced to 2.5 years in prison for my neutrality. The surroundings in prison were unfamiliar and overwhelming. I didn't know anyone, and I didn't know what to expect from them.
Please watch the following video that contains heartfelt comments from persecuted brothers and sisters in Russia and see why we have no reason to fear persecution.
I was horrified when several masked officers broke down 2 doors and burst into the home where the meeting was being held. Everything happened at once. Loud sounds, noise, the order, everyone sit on the floor.
I was overcome with fear when they put me in handcuffs, placed me in the police van and took me to jail.
I was afraid because I didn't know how long I would be there and what was awaiting me.
Early one morning, armed Russian special forces broke into my home. They handcuffed me and searched my place. They took me to the FSB office for interrogation. 2 days later, the court sentenced me to pre-trial detention. I was scared because I didn't know how I would be treated in prison. Threatening that things would get worse for me, the officer demanded that I incriminate myself, admit guilt, and give the names of my fellow believers. I also really missed my dear wife. It was so hard without her.
So, yes, of course they're persecuted. But again, other groups are persecuted as well. They're not unique in this. But of course, Jehovah's Witnesses can be convinced that they are persecuted because of what they see in the scriptures and the illustrations that they see constantly in the broadcasts and in magazines and publications. So those things that we saw, they would make you think that the Jehovah's Witnesses are this unique group. They're taught that they're going to be when the governments attack religion, that they're going to be the only ones who are left. And as the only ones left, well, they're going to be in bunkers and basements, and they're going to be hiding out, and they're going to be chased through fields and that sort of thing. But then Jehovah and the angels, they're going to come down and rescue them because they're not going to allow their people to be destroyed by SWAT teams and governments. But if the rank and file Jehovah's Witness was allowed to have the information that they need from other sources, they would know that they're not the only ones who are persecuted. Unfortunately, they are constantly told that the apostates are trying to get after them, and that the media is controlled by the governments and it's controlled by the apostates. Like some programs you might find, documentaries, so well, that's backed up by the apostates. Not necessarily. Just a plain old Google search will yield a lot of information about not only persecution, but the other things that happen that have turned public opinion against Jehovah's Witnesses. If you take into account the treatment of Jehovah's Witnesses in general, the recent bombings and attempted bombings, shootings, and that sort of thing, it's a terrible thing to have happen. It should not happen to anyone. But they are not the only ones who have these things happen to them. If you think that you're persecuted because you're part of Jehovah's organization and that it was foretold, could it possibly be that you're part of an organization that is protecting abusers of children, that is breaking up families, that is supposed to be a charity but is charitable to no one but themselves, or that go to people's doors and hound them to try and convert them, and probably some other reasons I just can't think of right now? Is it possible that that is the reason why there might be some hostility against Jehovah's Witnesses? Because newsflash, people don't like that sort of thing. For good reason. So in order to understand what's really going on in the world, you have to be able to access information other than what is found on jw.org in the Watchtower Library. It's not enough. It is biased beyond belief, and it's just not going to show things that are happening to other people. It would not surprise me if someone like Jeffrey Jackson gets on to the broadcast and says, you should not even look at the news because it's negative and it might say negative things about our organization. So that's poison to your faith. The media is just going to persecute you as well. But in my opinion, the only persecution that you can count on for sure is to be persecuted by the governing body and being told that you cannot do this, you cannot do that, and you cannot look up information about what's really going on. Because knowledge is power. Knowledge is freedom. Knowledge is so important to be able to know if you're living your life in the way that is best for you and best for the world in general. So, to answer the question at the beginning, are Jehovah's Witnesses being persecuted? Well, everybody's being persecuted. They are not unique. They are not God's chosen people. And personally, I would not want to spend 20 years in prison so that I can make the governing body happy by trying to peddle their literature and convert members to their group. And that is all I have to say on that. I'd like to thank you for watching. Please comment, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. It really helps with the algorithm to get this out to other people. And I know that I generally just say, I'll see you later, or bye for now. But, I just want to remind you that you are awesome. You are important. You are loved. And you got this. And bye for now.